Hello, students, and a warm welcome. I hope each one of you is doing well by the grace of God. Our topic for today is Unit 4.2, The Luncheon by William Somerset Maugham. Let us know about the writer. William Somerset Maugham was born in the year 1874 and died in the year 1965. He was a distinguished British playwright, novelist, and short story writer. He was among the most popular writers of his era and reputedly the highest paid author during the 1930s. His work is characterized by a clear, unadorned, which means simple style, cosmopolitan settings, and a shrewd understanding of human nature. Shrewd means assess a situation and be smart and intellectually handle the situation. So he had a very shrewd understanding of human nature. A most delightfully humorous narrative, The Luncheon, is a slice of life story about Muam's luncheon date proposed to him by a woman whom he hopes is a supporter of his art. I think the writer is narrating something that has happened in his own life, his own experience that he is sharing with us. It is not fiction or something that is made up. He tells us about a lady who is an admirer of his stories. She wins the author's favor and expresses her wish to meet him at a high class restaurant. William exposes the false motives of modest eating habits with a touch of humor. I caught sight of her at the play, and in answer to her call, I went over during the interval and sat down beside her. It was long since I had last seen her, and if someone had not mentioned her name, I hardly think I would have recognized her. She addressed me brightly. Well, it's many years since we first met. How time does fly. We are none of us getting any younger. Do you remember the first time I saw you? You asked me to luncheon. Did I remember? The story begins with the narrator meeting one of his acquaintances in the theatre. They had met after a long time, around 20 years, and the narrator found it hard to recognize the lady. The acquaintance, that is the lady, recognized him immediately and asked him if he remembered the last time and the first time they had met. She reminded him that he had asked her out for luncheon. The narrator quickly remembers what had happened and now he tells us the story. Here in the passage, there is a question: Did I remember? Did I remember is just a rhetoric question. It's a rhetorical question. He is not expecting any answer to this. It is a sarcastic statement and it wasn't a pleasant experience, one that he'll never forget. Okay? Let us now experience the journey along with Mom, what he has to say in the story ahead. It's definitely going to be even more humorous ahead. Just 20 years ago, and I was living in Paris. I had a tiny apartment and I was earning barely enough money. She had read a book of mine and written to me about it. I answered, thanking her, and presently I received from her another letter saying she was passing through Paris and would like to have a chat with me. But her time was limited, and the only free moment she had was on the following Thursday. And would I give her a little luncheon at Foyot's afterwards? Foyot's is a restaurant, and it was so far beyond my means that I had never even thought of going there. I had 80 francs to last me the rest of the month, and a modest luncheon should not cost more than 15. If I cut out coffee for the next 2 weeks, I could manage well enough. The narrator was living in Paris. He had a small apartment in a Latin quarter. He describes his income as just enough to keep body and soul together. That is, he had a very meager income. One of his books were read by that lady and she wrote to him about it. And he was excited and happy to know about it, and so he thanked her, and in a few days he received another letter from her saying that she was passing through Paris and would like to have a chat. The narrator took some time to decide where to take her for lunch. Since she recommended Foyot's, he finally considered Foyot's, which was a restaurant where many French senators ate. And although it was a very expensive restaurant, exorbitant for the narrator, he was flattered by the woman's compliments and decided to cut down cost by drinking no coffee for the next 2 weeks. He had 80 gold francs to last him the month, and he assumed that a decent lunch wouldn't cost him more than 15 francs. So he asked the lady out for luncheon, a formal lunch at Foyot's. I answered that I would meet my friend at Foyot's on Thursday at 12:30. She was in appearance imposing rather than attractive, and she gave me the impression of having more teeth, white and large, and even that very necessary for any practical purpose. She was talkative, but since she seemed to want to talk about me, I was prepared to be an attentive listener. I was startled when the menu was brought, for the prices were a great deal higher than I had thought. But she reassured me. He finally decides to meet her at Foyot's on Thursday at 12:30, that is around 12:30. The narrator described the lady as having uh, in her to be in her 40s, and she had more teeth than necessary. That is, she was talkative and not so very attractive. Okay, so she was, but he wanted to listen to her because she was talking about him, and he was flattered by the way she spoke about him. And but when the menu arrived, the narrator was extremely startled as the prices were a great deal higher. Okay, the prices were very high compared to what he had expected it to be. And considering his income, he had to think twice before spending it. I never eat anything for luncheon, she said. Oh, don't say that, I answered generously. I never eat more than one thing. I think people eat for too much nowadays. A little fish, perhaps. I wonder if they have any salmon. Well, it was early in the year for salmon, and it was not on the menu. But I asked the waiter if there was any. Yes, a beautiful salmon had just come in. It was the first they had. I ordered it for my guest. The waiter the waiter asked her if she would have something while it was being cooked. No, she answered. I never eat more than one thing unless you had a little caviar. I had I never mind caviar. The lady reassured the writer, telling him that she never had more than one item for lunch. And the narrator generously said, please don't say that. But he dearly wished she ate only one item. Although it was early in the year for salmon and it was not on the menu, the friend wanted to eat it, and so he asked the waiter to see if there was any salmon, saying that she ate just one thing. She didn't even hesitate to the slightest when she asked for a little caviar. Caviar is fish eggs that people across the globe delightfully eat. It is a delicacy that people enjoy, pickled eggs of fish. I knew I could not afford caviar, but I could not very well tell her that. For myself, I chose the cheapest dish on the menu, and that was a mutton chop. I think you're unwise to eat meat, she said. I don't believe in overloading my stomach. She ate the caviar and she ate the salmon. She talked gaily of art and literature and music. But I wondered what the bill would come to. When my mutton chop arrived, she took me quite seriously to task. The writer was really worried now, since he knew that he could not afford the caviar. But it would not be right, and he could not tell her that since she was his guest. And hence he chose for him the cheapest dish available on the menu, and that was a mutton chop, a delicacy made out of meat. I think you're unwise to eat meat. For that, the lady had to say, or the writer's friend had to say, that he was not being wise by choosing to eat meat. I don't believe in overloading my stomach. So she believed that if you eat meat, you are overloading your stomach, eating too much. She ate the caviar and she ate the salmon as well. So now, although she had said that she eats just one thing, she has already eaten the caviar and the salmon. And she talked very happily about art, literature, and music. And this was the reason the writer had invited her, since he liked to listen to art, literature, and music. And now he was already wondering what the bill would come to. And what happens next, let us see. I see that you're in a habit of eating a heavy luncheon. I'm sure it's a mistake. Why don't you follow my example and just eat one thing? I couldn't possibly eat anything more unless they had some of those giant asparagus. I should be sorry to leave Paris without having some of them. My heart sank. I had seen them in the shops. I knew that they were horribly expensive. My mouth had often watered at the sight of them. I'm not in the least hungry, my guest sighed. But if you insist, I don't mind having some asparagus. I ordered them. Aren't you going to have any? No, I never eat asparagus. All this time, the lady told him that meat was a heavy dish and that he should follow her example and eat only one dish, although she was clearly having more than one. She couldn't possibly eat anything more, she said, unless they had some of those giant asparagus. Okay, now she would be sorry to leave Paris without having some of them. Now, listening to her desiring asparagus, the writer's heart sank. He was aware that they are very expensive and he could not afford them. He had been watching them in other shops and he had often wished to eat those asparagus, and over that the lady says she was not in the least hungry. She was hardly hungry, or she was not hungry. But if you insist, she would not mind having some asparagus. The writer had no choice and he ordered them. But it didn't stop there. She asked him whether he would have it or not. And he said that he never ate asparagus. We waited for the asparagus to be cooked. Panic seized me. It was not a question of of how much money I should have left over for the rest of the month, but whether I had enough to pay the bill. It would be mortifying to find myself 10 francs short and be obliged to borrow from my guest. I knew exactly how much I had, and if the bill came to more, I made up my mind that I would put my hand in my pocket and with a dramatic cry start up and say it had been picked. Of course, it would be awkward if she had not money enough either to pay the bill. Then the only thing would be to leave my watch and say I would come back and pay later. Our narrator was seized by panic. Now he began to think whether he had enough money to pay the bill. It would be mortifying, it would be insulting if he couldn't find any, or if the bill exceeded the amount that he had. And so he decided, he's thinking in his mind that he would put his hand in the pocket and act as if to say someone had picked his pocket. Of course, it would be awkward if she too did not have enough money to pay the bill. And the final thing that he could do was leave his watch at the restaurant, and he would come and pay the bill and take back the watch. The asparagus appeared. I watched her thrust them down her throat in large mouthfuls. At last she finished. Thrust means to push down the throat or to gulp it down quickly. Coffee, I said. Yes, just an ice cream and coffee, she answered. I was past caring now, so I ordered coffee for myself and an ice cream and coffee for her. You know, there's one thing I thoroughly believe in, she said, as she ate the ice cream. One should always get up from a meal feeling one could eat a little more. Are you still hungry? I asked faintly. Oh no, I'm not hungry. You see, I don't eat luncheon. I have a cup of coffee in the morning and then dinner. But I never eat more than one thing for luncheon. I was speaking for you. After watching her gulp down the large asparagus, he asked her if she would have coffee, but she demanded for an ice cream and then a coffee. And now he had stopped caring about the bill because she had ordered enough, saying that she would have one thing, and she had ordered enough that could be eaten for enough for two people. The narrator had given up hope to have any money left at the end of the meal, so he ordered coffee for himself too. When the narrator asked her, "Are you still hungry?" she says, "I'm not hungry," and she kept saying, "I don't eat anything for luncheon." And she actually ate more than one thing for luncheon. Oh, I see. Then a terrible thing happened. While we were waiting for the coffee, the head waiter came up to us bearing a large basket full of huge peaches. But surely peaches were not in season then. Lord knew what they cost. I knew a little later, for my guest going on with her conversation, absent mindedly took one. You see, you filled your stomach with a lot of meat, my one miserable little chop, and you can't eat any more. But I've just had a snack and I shall enjoy a peach. After the luncheon, just when they were about to get up, the waiter appeared with a large basket of fresh peaches, much to the dismay of our narrator. The narrator refused for himself, but the lady took one peach. She kept thinking that the one mutton chop he had ruined his appetite. It was not the season of peaches, so the narrator had to pay extra. According to her, the meal that she had was just a snack and that she could certainly enjoy the peach. So she was of the thought that she was just having something very light and she could still eat something more. But she kept saying that I have just one thing for lunch. Thoughts must be definitely reeling through William's mind about how he was going to pay the exorbitant bill, or how could he feign an act of his pocket having been picked. So it was constantly on his mind, but he had stopped caring about it and he showed a careless attitude. The bill came, and when I paid it, I found that I had only enough for a quite inadequate tip. Her eyes rested for an instant on the 3 francs I left for the waiter, and I knew that she thought me mean. But when I walked out of the restaurant, I had the whole month before me and not a penny in my pocket. Follow my example, she said as we shook hands, and never eat more than one thing for luncheon. I'll do better than that, I retorted. I'll eat nothing for dinner tonight. The lady found the author to be mean just because he had kept an inadequate tip that is around 3 francs, and she didn't realize that he had nothing in his pocket and he had to manage an entire month. And over that, she told him to follow her example and eat nothing more than one thing for luncheon. He wittily replied, he'll not eat anything for dinner. Humorist, she cried gaily, jumping into a cab. You're quite a humorist, but I have had my revenge at last. I do not believe that I am a vindictive man, but when the gods take a hand in the matter, it is understandable to observe the result with satisfaction. Today she weighs 21 stone. She called him a humorist. This was again ironical because the narrator really meant what he said, since he did not have a single penny in his pocket and he had the whole month left. So he could not have anything for dinner. The writer is not a vindictive man. He is not a one who is revengeful, but at the same time, he becomes vengeful and enjoys the fact that after eating so much, his friend had become overweight. Her weight was 21 stone, which was approximately 134 kilos. Of the story, the author had only 80 francs to last him the rest of the month. So he was not interested in dining at Foyos. But the lady friend reassured him, saying, I never eat anything for lunch. She ordered several things, but each one individually, such as salmon, caviar, giant asparagus, a peach from Italy, coffee, and ice cream. At the same time, she rebuked Moham for eating red meat, as he had ordered mutton, the cheapest dish on the menu. When the bill for the light lunch came, Moham had only 3 francs left to leave a meager tip for the waiter. Now Moham had the rest of the month ahead of him and he was penniless. The supporter offered him nothing. Instead, she jumped into a cab and called out happily to him, saying goodbye. In the end, the author explains that he is not a vindictive man. He is not a revengeful man, but when the immortal gods take a hand in the matter, it is understandable to observe the result with satisfaction. And today, the woman who only ate light lunches and only one thing at a time weighs 21 stone after 20 years. That is approximately 134 kgs. Boys, kindly complete your books, the text back questions, the English workshop. See that you solve it. And if you have any difficulties, you can ask in the online classes. I hope you have understood the lesson. Thank you, boys.